To be here and to be able to work with IPS. And back in January this year, we launched the Barclays Buying Abroad service in conjunction with ABSA to help make it easier for UK clients who are buying property in the South African market.
I was taken round to have a look at those properties that Baldwin are offering you there, and I really can say that they are the best quality residential properties being built in South Africa at the moment.
I bought a place in the Canyon, and I was back 2 weeks ago to have a look, and the quality is excellent. They've made the process really, really easy, done all the paperwork for me, and yeah, brilliant.
And ABSA and Barclays have done a tremendous amount of work together, and it's very exciting in terms of the new product offerings they're bringing to the market. And what it's going to enable you to do is be able to bank in this country and invest in South Africa, and possibly when you're in South Africa, bank there and invest back in England.
At Baldwin Properties, we work damn hard. We try to be as innovative as possible. All the developments that you see out there have got all their power connections, they're all done.
The whole deal could be done in about 60 days. It did sound like it's something that I wouldn't have to sweat much to get into the deal.
You know, a man loves to be king of his castle, and you arrive there, there's great security, it's very, very sensational, it's got the beautiful fountains, and people really enjoy it, and that's the reason that there's been such good rental demand.
I really think it's a very good place to invest.
You buy a property for R1 million, basically you're going to get a mortgage for R1 million. And on transfer, Baldwin will give you a cheque for R50,000. Now that's absolutely fantastic as an investor.
I would definitely consider buying property in South Africa, whereas I probably wouldn't if I didn't come to this.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and first of all, can I just say a very warm welcome on behalf of Barclays and ABSA. I'd like to welcome you to the global headquarters of Barclays here at 1 Churchill Place, and I'd also first and foremost like to commend you for getting here. When I woke up this morning and saw the weather, I thought, oh dear, that doesn't bode particularly well, although on the other hand, what a great day to think about buying a place in the sun. So I'm ever the optimist. I thought that was potentially a positive. I then got a text message from a member of my team who lives in Putney saying, trains not running from Putney or Wimbledon, not good news for the event. So, I don't know how you got here, but however you did it, thank you very much, and it's a real pleasure having you here today. The second thing is that I'd like to just say that as a Welshman, I think it's very fitting that I should be here today, the day after Wales became the rugby champions of the Northern Hemisphere. And as you can tell, I'm quite proud of that. And it's amazing I can speak today because there was a bit of shouting going on yesterday. But to be here hosting an event that's focused on South Africa, not only the champions of the Southern Hemisphere, but also the world champions. I think I have to say that, but I think it's a great partnership, and I'm very pleased to be here. Before we get into the serious business, I'd also like to just point out the gifts that are on your chairs. And these are just a little gift, a taste of South Africa, I guess, courtesy of Barclays and ABSA. Now, I had a sneaky look in there, and I didn't know that jelly tots were South African, but hey, that's fine by me. So I hope you enjoy that. I'll be taking some of those home with me. But there we go. So what I'd also like to do now is really just make some introductions. I mean, one of the Barclays Group objectives is to bring the very best of what the Barclays Group has to offer to our clients, and to do that with every product, every market, and to do it every time that we possibly can. But the only way that we can do that is by forming world-class partnerships and world-class alliances. And so I think it's really key that we introduce some of the partners that we're here with today, who are really hopefully going to organise and run a great event to give you more of an insight into South Africa. So first of all, I'd like to introduce IPS. I'll let Scott do the talking later on, but I don't know if people want to just stand up as I mention their names, just so that if you haven't already managed to pick them off for a chat, then you'll be able to afterwards. But we've got Scott Pickin from IPS. We've got Heath Adamson at the back there, and we've got Bruce Peach. We have a number of other members of the IPS team, and the big giveaway is that anyone who's wearing khaki trousers and a black shirt either currently works for IPS or could be by the end of the day. We've also got, I'm delighted to introduce Steve Brooks and Steve's team from Baldwin Properties. Steve, you're so tall you don't need to stand up, but Steve's just at the back there as well, and I'm sure many of you have spoken to Steve already. I'm joined by William Sermon from ABSA. So William's just standing halfway down the room at the back there. William ordinarily works at Joburg, but he's been with us for the last week. And it's great that he's here. So if you need to pick someone's brains on the details of what we offer in South Africa, then William's your man. From my team, we have Michael Cusimano, who's may have left the room. We've got Suzanne Clay, who I can see at the back there. So again, do talk to Suzanne if you're interested in any of the services that we can offer. And a big thank you also to Ria Alder, who's done a lot of the organisation for today's event. I'd also like to introduce Alex Wilford. Alex is a mortgage advisor, so for those of you who are interested in buying property in the UK, Alex is just standing at the back there. He can talk to you about getting a mortgage in the UK if you're a resident in the UK. And Stephen, please don't take offence, Stephen Marukian, I probably mispronounced your name, but Stephen is here. For those of you who are non-resident in the UK, then Stephen can help in terms of how he can help you to fund property purchases in the UK market. And then finally, I'd like to introduce Ian Fife. Ian is coincidentally already standing. Ian was just dropping a subtle hint to me there that I hadn't forgotten. But Ian is the property editor of the Financial Mail, and I know Ian, for those of you who haven't already heard Ian speak, he's going to offer us some great insights into the South African market, and certainly look forward to hearing that. So, I'd like to just talk briefly about three themes over the next no more than 10 minutes or so. First of all, the Barclays and ABSA partnership. What does it mean? Not just what does it mean for us as an organisation, but for you as existing clients or prospective clients, what does that partnership mean? The second thing is the phenomenon of UK residents buying property abroad, and it's something that's grown in spite of whatever you read about the UK property market at the moment. We're seeing continued healthy growth in respect of UK residents buying property abroad. And the third thing is just to offer what I hope is a balanced but slightly positive perspective on some of the global trends that are impacting the market that we're all so interested in at the moment. So those are the things that I'm going to talk about. Before I do that though, I'd like to just offer a personal perspective on my own first experience of visiting South Africa back in September 2002. And I'd actually gone over to Durban to do a business project for a week. And I went with, as well as my luggage, with the usual set of preconceptions around what South Africa was all about, the kind of the risks, the pitfalls, the security issues, the usual misconceptions, you could argue, or preconceptions at least. And you can imagine that when I arrived at the Hilton in Durban and was told not to leave the hotel, not to explore alone by foot, I thought, well, maybe it was right after all. Well, it wasn't quite true, and I'm pleased to say that I had a very enjoyable week in Durban. Even more importantly, though, I then went on to have an even more enjoyable week in Cape Town and around the Cape Peninsula with my wife. She wasn't my wife at the time, but after a week sampling the delights of the Cape cuisine, the Cape wine, and her subtle window shopping to look at the great value for money with the diamonds, we were engaged. So I've got a particular affinity and warmth towards South Africa. But I suppose the serious point is that I think UK buyers, and I know there are many South Africans in the audience, so I don't need to address this to you, but certainly for UK buyers, I think we'd do well to leave some of those preconceptions at home and to really dig a bit deeper and get out to the South African market to see what it has to offer. So, firstly, a word about the partnership with ABSA. ABSA, again, many of you will know this, those of you familiar with South Africa will know ABSA as a leading player within the South African banking industry. ABSA is also a part of the Barclays Group, I'm delighted to say. And back in January this year, we launched the Barclays Buying Abroad service in conjunction with ABSA to help make it easier for UK clients who are buying property in the South African market. And by working closely with that team in ABSA, what we're able to offer is a dedicated service for our customers in the UK. So we have a dedicated call centre team based in the UK to talk to clients about buying abroad. But we marry that up with the local expertise that we have in South Africa through ABSA. So I think by bringing those two things together, we can really make the Barclays global footprint work for our clients. So as I said earlier, I won't kind of dwell on that point, but William or Suzanne or any other members of the team will be delighted to talk to you later on about any questions you've got about the range of services that we can offer clients who are buying property abroad. So let's move on to the opportunity presented by the growing trend of, I hesitate to say Brits, because with somewhere between 1 million and 1.5 million South Africans living in the UK, not everyone living in the UK is a Brit, clearly, but the growing trend of Brits buying property abroad, last year alone, 250,000 Brits emigrated. Now that's a pretty big number. Judging on today's weather, it's not altogether surprising, but it's a big number. It's also 70% greater than the same number in 1997. So that number's increased dramatically over the last 10 years. We've seen the number of our clients buying property abroad grow dramatically in the last few years. So certainly within the last 3 to 4 years, we've seen annual growth of between 15 and 20%. So again, in spite of everything we hear about the global property market, this continues to be interesting business. And I think if I speak more generally rather than specifically on South Africa, lower property prices, attractive interest rates within the Eurozone, these have all been the keys to driving that growth in the business of people buying abroad. And particularly within the Eurozone, with interest rates between 1 and 1.5% below UK rates, you can see why that's an attraction for many buyers. But I suppose just to come back to one of the crucial points here, I think one of the questions we ask ourselves when we're looking at our client base is to think about why people are buying. And I think as prospective buyers, it's one of the key questions for you to ask yourselves. When we did some research with UK customers last year, basically this confirmed that buyers fall into 2 broad categories. We call them dream chasers and investors. The dream chasers probably account for about half of those buying property abroad. And these include people buying holiday homes, second homes, as well as those seeking a lifestyle change or just moving abroad for retirement purposes. And I think the kind of classic destinations in Western Europe of Spain, France, Italy and Portugal, they remain popular in spite of the emergence of lots of new markets there. I think perhaps a target group that's even more interesting for the people here today is the investor group. The survey that we did last year suggested that 1 in 5 of the buyers are pure investors. I'll come on to another category in a minute because the actual number of investors is bigger. But investors are clearly focusing on rental income, capital gains, and also potentially carrying out renovation projects in some of the more established markets, as well as as buying property in markets such as Central and Eastern Europe, where we're seeing some pretty spectacular growth rates at the moment. I think the remaining third or so is a kind of hybrid category of dream chasers and investors. And certainly within Western Europe, the main reason for buying is leisure, but there's a secondary reason in terms of driving some rental gains when the property's not being used. I guess if we think about where South Africa fits in, it's perhaps it's maybe a version of that segment of the market, although perhaps with more of an investment bias given the distances involved. But I think, as I said, with the significant population of South Africans living in the UK, whether that's 1 million or 1.5 million, it's a very big number, and I guess about half of those live in London. Then clearly there's a desire within that population for many people to buy property back home. So by tapping into the global footprint that Barclays has to offer, what I'd like to position with you today is that by working with ABSA, what we're seeking to do is to try and make it easier and safer for buyers in all of those categories by a combination of a dedicated service team in the UK, the local expertise that we've got within those marketplaces, but then also not just offering the mortgage or the financing solution, but instead offering a full range, a comprehensive range of banking services, whether it's the in-country current accounts and investment services, or indeed an overseas transfer service to help you get your money there efficiently and cheaply. But how does all of this stack up? I mean, clearly for me to stand here today and suggest that the property market is looking rosy would be wrong. There are clearly some significant challenges within the global market we all face. Everyone's heard about US subprime, everyone's heard about the credit crunch and the liquidity issues that led to the demise of Northern Rock, as well as the issues that are specific to the markets that we operate in. And I know some of the other speakers will talk about some of those issues that are specific to South Africa later on. What I'd like to offer, though, is a slightly more optimistic perspective to balance against some of those very real challenges. First of all, UK mortgage lending in January was up 11% on the previous month, and that figure reached 26.5 billion. Now, 26.5 million. Now, admittedly, this is lower than most months in 2007, but clearly, driven by remortgage activity, there's still growth going on within the UK mortgage lending market. And it's unusual to see an upward trend in January. Secondly, the buy-to-let market in 2007. In the second half of 2007, that market reached 24 billion, which is about 3 billion higher than either the first half of 2007 or the second half of 2006. Now, again, I'm not pretending that the market isn't getting tougher, but we're still seeing evidence that some of the fundamentals remain strong in the market. And the third point is that whilst on a downward trend, annual house price inflation for the UK was about 4.5% in January. Now, the consensus for 2008, clearly nobody is expecting property prices to increase in 2008. But if you look at the range of consensus forecasts on that, it's somewhere between -5% and +1%. Now, in my books, I think that's more of a readjustment than anything more severe or anything more dramatic. So I think we've got to take this, and we've got to take these factors in perspective and we've got to take them in context when we're looking at the opportunities that might be offered by the property market. Even in markets such as Spain, where undoubtedly we are seeing a slowdown and where we're seeing some oversupply and prices going down as a result, the fundamentals in that market remain sound. And I think that this is, for me, a great opportunity for buyers such as yourselves, whether it's in Western European markets or in South Africa. I think that actually at the moment we're faced with a buyer's market. And let's face it, in any other industry, when the prices go down, people queue outside the door to snap up the bargains. So I think for careful buyers who do their research and do their due diligence, there's a great opportunity to get some good bargains in the international property market. So I'm delighted to be here and to be able to work with IPS, who are clearly leading players in terms of helping you to make that move and to buy that property in South Africa, but also to be here with Baldwin Properties and see some examples of great developments and fantastic value for money in the South African market. And I hope what we've been able to bring to you today and through the rest of today is a taste of what South Africa has to offer. I'm really excited at the prospect of working with the business partners we've got in the room, and I really hope that we're able to work with you to help buy your place in the sun. Thank you very much.